and welcome back to Star Citizen University, and this video will be looking at how to mine using a prospector, and I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. First of all, let's have a look at the prospector. Bring up our loadout manager and select prospector. This is pretty much a standard fit in terms of the cooler and the power plant. I haven't touched those. Quantum drive, I would suggest changing to something better than the stock one. I go for an Atlas. And the shield generator I've upgraded as well, but it's not necessary. What is necessary though is to upgrade the mining utilities. So first and most important, a Lanza MH1 mining laser. This is the best laser for mining Quantanium by a country mile. You can try and mine Quantanium with the others, but you'll struggle. This makes it so much easier, and it's not expensive. So the next one is a Riger C3 module. Now these are quite expensive. You can go for a Riger C1 or a C2, slightly less effective but much cheaper, and that's usually quite a good idea until you've learned how to mine, because you will blow up quite a lot and you lose these modules, these three modules, you lose these when you blow up. So a Riger module is what I use. It increases the optimal charge window, which essentially is the green bar, and that'll make more sense later on, and it also fractionally increases the resistance of the rock, which is not a good thing. But the other modules help to mitigate that slightly. We have a surge module. When you activate this, and it only has 5 uses, then you need to replace the module. When you activate it, it increases, gives you a big boost to your charge, and you'll see that in action later on. Also, if you're not careful, it's extremely dangerous. Takes a bit of getting used to, the surge. And to use in conjunction with the surge, we have a stampede module, which slightly increases the instability of a rock, which isn't good, but massively increases the charge rate. And again, that will become clear as we are mining. Again, 5 uses on this guy. So that is the way that I set up my prospector for mining. It's kind of high risk and high reward. Safer ways are available, but you will find rocks that you cannot mine unless you have the setup that I'm using. So we'll bring up the prospector, and we're going to head from where we currently are, which is in Arc L1, one of the refinery stations at Lagrange Point near Arc Core, which is where I base my mining. We're going to head from here to Lyria, and I will cut back while we are in flight. So I don't think I mentioned that Arc Core, or Lyria, is a moon of Arc Core, and you can see here on the map where we're going from Arc L1 to Arc Core. Now it is worth, when you're doing this, when you're targeting Arc Core, as you have to, as part of your route, to stop your quantum jump when you get to about 250,000 kilometers away, like we're about to do here. And the reason for doing that is because it's fractionally quicker to actually just directly target Lyria from here, which it may or may not let me do. It has done this time. But the main reason for doing it is because dropping out of the jump here, you are not going to ever be anywhere near Arc Core of the planet, which means there's less chance of bumping into hostile players. And you're also approaching Lyria from a slightly different angle, which again means anybody waiting there isn't going to be in the right place to intercept you. So it just makes things ever so slightly safer, and it's fractionally quicker. So there's no harm to do this, and there are benefits. Okay, so we're about to be in orbit over Lyria, and once we are, we're just going to have a look around, try and find a marker that's on the light side of Lyria. Doesn't really matter which one it is. Some people say that they're, different ones are better. I'm actually looking for something about 300 kilometers away, and this one here looks as good as anything else. So the reason we're sticking on the light side is very simply because it's easier to see what you're doing, but also because when you've got your cargo and you're due to fly back to Arc L1, you will find it much easier to set a route to Arc L1 if you're on the light side, because Arc L1 is towards the sun, so you're always going to have a direct run back. It's not the end of the world if you can't, but it just makes life easier. And I'm all about making life easier. So, okay, so we're over the surface of Lyria. Turn the quantum drive off, and we're going to hit tab. just to scan. And we can see here that we picked up a rock. There's another wee box over here. It's a little bit buggy, we've still got quantum markers. There we go. So if we get within 5,000 meters of this, the box will vanish and it will resolve into whatever rock it is. Like so. And the great thing about Lyria, and this is the reason that we mine in Lyria, is that if you see two rocks together, or a group of rocks, then you know that those are going to be quantanium. So you don't need to scan, you just look for two or more rocks and you know you've hit a quant deposit. So what you can do to make your life slightly easier is to also at this point hit the full stop button, which changes your scan settings to 180 degrees in front of the ship. Just saves you getting confused by what's behind you. So it's now just a question of flying around until you find multiple rocks, and sometimes you'll get this really easy, and sometimes you'll be flying around for 20 minutes. Okay, so what we have here is a field of rocks, which I know simply because there's more than one of them, are going to contain quantanium. They're all going to be quant rocks. So we've got two choices here. We can try and use the ship scanner to tell us what's in these rocks, and that one is telling me actually that one's 6% quantanium. Over on the right hand side you can see the rock breakdown. Yeah, jumping about between two of them. I do not like the ship scanner, it doesn't work most of the time, so what I do is I press M to bring up my mining laser, and I just go in and kind of eyeball each rock to see what's, if anything, is actually worth mining. So we know that one, we can see there again, 6% quantanium. Not much use. What we're looking for really is anything over 20%. I'll just quickly go around. 27%. See, that's definitely worth mining. And 27 again. That's a big rock. We will need Surge and Stampede to break that rock, which is good because it gives me a chance to demonstrate it to you. 2%, another 29. Okay, so that's fine. So we've got quite a good wee field here. What I would normally do is I would call in a unibuddy to help break these rocks, because there's more than enough here just for me. It would be a waste for me to break this field, but when I'm filming this there is actually nobody else on. So so here's how we break a rock without using Surge or Stampede. If you look at the mass of that rock, which you'll see in the scan results, it's 4,072. Now I know that anything under 5,000 I can break without using the modules. So I'll just close the range to about 30 meters, which is the optimal range for the Lancet. And if you look on the right hand side, you will see a white bar is creeping up towards the green and red area. What we need to do is get that white bar into the green, not in the red. We need to keep it in the green. And we juggle the power by using the mouse wheel. Currently on 100% power. I'm going to throttle that back soon. What happens if it goes in the red is that it overcharges, and there's a good chance that the rock will blow up and either destroy the quantanium or destroy your ship, or possibly both. So yeah, it's not a good idea to be in the red. So keep it in the green as much as you can, and it's kind of a skill, you know, that you learn. It's not like a lot of games where mining is just pressing a button and hitting something with a pickaxe. There is actually a skill to this. It's not the most involved skill in the world, but you'll recognise there's a skill after you've blown up a few times, and you will, because everybody does. So we're in the green, and you can see that charge slowly creeping up. Once that gets to the end, the rock will shatter. And if it's in the green, it will shatter gently. Throttle back. Just try and keep it as near the centre of the green as you can. So, That's now shattered into smaller pieces. We'll have a quick look at the pieces it's shattered into. You can see it's got a yellow outline, which means it's still mineable. If it has a purple outline, that means you can pick it up. But the yellow ones, we're still going to need to crack if they have any quantanium in them. So, scan each one. So far, they haven't had any quant, which is actually good, because it means all of the quantanium is concentrated in just one or two rocks. And that's good for reasons that you will see in a second. See, this entire chunk of rock is all quantanium. That's great. It's really good news. It doesn't often happen that way. So, we'll break this guy down. I'll maybe show you this. It's not as difficult to break down the smaller rocks because, well, they're just not as big. So it needs a lot less power and sometimes a bit of a finer touch. Same principle though, it's just keep it in the green. Quantanium is usually quite unstable, so it does jump about a bit. It's just really a question of trying to keep your adjustments one stage ahead. So that's about to break down into purple. As you can see, the purple outline around these guys, and they're all going to be 100% quantanium, which is really good news, because when we scoop them up, we're not going to have anything in the cargo hold except quantanium. So, yeah, and that's one also 100% quantanium. Really lucky break with this rock. Really lucky. Okay, so that second rock is now broken, and we're just looking at the last one here, and I can tell already that that's not going to have quantanium. So all of our quantanium is nicely broken down into great little chunks of 100% quantanium. Really good news. Now let's hit this other rock. Right, so this rock here, it's highly unlikely that even if I turn this beam on to full power, I'm actually going to be able to make much headway. It's going to sit. It's actually telling me there that it's too difficult for me to break. It's possible that if I was to wait 20 minutes, it might manage to creep up to where it needs to be. But I'm not going to wait that long. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the surge module, which is in my case Alt F2. And that slams the bar right up. Now, we may be able to get it into the green from here. Sometimes it will drop back down again and you need to surge it again to get it into the green. But this one is going to creep into the green, so that's fine. So we'll hit our stampede module to speed things along. And you can see how fast that is filling up. You really don't want this to be in the red, because if you are, everything's going to go bang really big time. So there we go. That is how Surge Stampede works. Now, this rock is pretty pointless, to be absolutely honest. There was very little point in breaking it, but it did allow me to demonstrate those modules. So there we go. So I'm just going to finish breaking down the other useful rocks here, and then I'll come back. Okay, so once you've finished with breaking down the rocks, it's time to start extracting. And I usually recommend that before you do that, you try and set a course back to RKL1, just because it's going to save you a wee bit of time. So, into extraction mode, we're just going to start picking up the stuff that we mined earlier on, that we know is quantanium. Just grab all of this stuff, don't even need to scan it, because we know everything that's purple here is quant, which makes our life really easy for this point. Now the second we start picking this up, a volatile cargo timer starts, and we have 15 minutes to get back to a refinery and get the ship stored. If we don't do that, it's going to explode. But there's not really any cause to panic. One of the reasons that we like to mine in Lyria is because it's not a long flight between Lyria and Ark, so you don't have to be stuck in Quantum for a very long time. so this was an unusually good rock with a really lucky break. We're getting a lot of quantanium from it and nothing else, which is great. We can carry 32 units. We have basically nearly 18 just from that. So I know there's a wee bit more 100% quantanium lying around, so I'm going to try and get that first. I don't know if anybody noticed, but just before I started recording again, I had tapped the extract button and picked up a tiny little quantity of quantanium, so we're about 20-30 seconds behind where we should be, but it's not a worry yet. So a lot of the time you're going to end up picking up stuff that's, you know, 50% quantanium, 50% aluminium, or some sort of mixture like that. And that just means that you're not going to have a full quantanium cargo. So away it goes. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. So over here, and hopefully we'll be able to grab enough to fill the hold, or near enough anyway. I could turn the lights on in the ship, but it actually makes it slightly harder to see what I'm doing, so I'm not going to. It's much easier when I can see the outlines of the different pieces of rock. See, this one's only 90%, but we're going to have to grab it because we're running out of options here. And I'm just trying to grab the last few units of something. Nearly full. Let's try this little tiny wee bit in the corner here, see what that's got. Yeah, grand. Right, cargo's pretty much full, there's not really any point in picking up the last half unit. So 31.45 is not a bad little haul, nearly a perfect load. We need to grab a wee bit of height so that we can QT back to RKL 1. It says it's obstructed, but once we're about, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 feet up, we should, or meters up rather, we should be able to get a jump. It's always worth remembering that from Lyria, RKL 1 is always towards the sun. Makes it easier to find. And that's us back towards RKL 1, and it's pretty much a straight jump back, so I'll cut back once we get there. Alright, so just about back at RKL 1, and unlike a lot of stations, when you arrive at one of the Lagrange stations, you're not actually where you need to be. Don't know what the rationale behind that is, but we are currently 68 kilometres away from the station, so we will jump a wee bit closer. Or we will if the quantum drive behaves itself. It can't be a Star Citizen video without at least one bug. Wouldn't be right. Okay. Don't need to QT drive. So what we do now is we just basically slam the speed up as high as we can go, boost, and head towards the station with all possible speed. Worth remembering, however, that the Prospector does not slow down very well. So what I'll do is I'll let it get to a point that I've kind of roughly got memorised, and I'll just let it slow down in its own time. And this will take us into air traffic control range. There we go, put the gear down, and we're pretty much ready to just put this thing down and get it stored. Let's just check the time. Yeah, we've got, I think that says 9 minutes, could be 8, I think it's 9 though. So yeah, plenty of time, no concerns at all. Don't want to slam it down too hard with the Quantanium. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I don't really want to find out. So, that's us. Now we just go down and store the ship. Right, so here we are, ready to store the ship, and the second that we've got this stored, and I usually do sit and watch it just to make sure it actually has stored. There we go. Then we don't have to worry about the timer anymore. The ship is not going to explode, which is good news. And now we go to the refinery. And I will cut the elevator journey because it's about 40 seconds long. Right, so this is the refinery. Very atmospheric, very fiery. We just run straight through, or walk, you know, whatever. Time is money, friend. Up here. Now we've got two choices, right? We can either go to the ore sales and sell everything that we picked up. So we could do that, and we could sell our Quantanium for 138,000. We're not going to do that, however, because if we go to the refinery, we'll get a lot more money for it. Right, so Prospector, set up work order. So we're going to mine the Quantanium because that's all we've got, which is good news. Now there are a number of different techniques, if you will, processes that you can use to mine. Essentially you can pick 2 out of the 3 from expensive, fast and efficient. Now I will always suggest that people pick dynamic solventation. It is cheap and it is slow, but it is very efficient. Well, actually it's kind of middle of the road expense, but it's slow and it's very efficient. So we'll go with this. I just use Dynex for absolutely everything. It's going to take 1 day and 18 hours, and it's going to cost me 6,298 credits, which is not really that much considering that this load is worth 250,000. So that's us. Now we wait. As you can see, if you're doing quite a bit of mining, you've always got a line of stuff. This is all ready to go. This stuff's processing. And that is Prospector mining. It is not difficult. You fly to Lyria with the setup Prospector, you find some rocks, and sometimes it'll take you a minute, sometimes it'll take you 15 minutes, sometimes it'll take you half an hour. Just depends how lucky you are. And then you break the rocks, scoop them up, fly back, refine them, and it's the easiest way to make money in Star Citizen. Now, just a little bit about the university before I go. We are an organisation, we aim to be the premier teaching organisation of Star Citizen. We're always looking for new players, but we're also looking for content creators because, as you can tell, I'm not the best video maker. It would be lovely to have somebody just a little bit better than me. We're also looking for teachers, and we're just looking for people that want a decent group to hang in the game with, have fun, do lots of different activities, all the usual stuff, but with an emphasis on flattening out the learning curve for new players. So there will be some links below to the RSI organisation page where you can sign up, also the organisation Discord, and I'll put in a Star Citizen referral code. If you haven't actually played the game, use that, it'll give you some extra money at the start. That's it, thanks for watching and happy mining guys, take it easy.